Mr. President, distinguished guests, we stand today at a place of battle, one that 40 years ago saw and felt the worst of war. Men bled and died here for a few feet or inches of sand as bullets and shell fire cut through their ranks. About them, General Omar Bradley later said, "Every man who set foot on Omaha Beach that day was a hero."
Francis J. Griesser, the only son of Francis J. and Mary Griesser, was born December 20th, 1919, at their home on Felton Street in Philadelphia. Although Francis was named after his father at birth, his mother quickly nicknamed him Beau. Beau grew up on South Dewey Street in the southwest section of Philadelphia. Beau was always looking for adventure in the neighborhood, with neighborhood guys of all ages. He attended St. Barnabas Catholic Grade School in southwest Philadelphia, where he was not only an excellent student and athlete, but also a devoted child to both his family and faith. Beau formed a steadfast faith at a young age that would serve as a foundation for his courage and determination throughout his entire life. As he continued his Catholic school education at West Catholic School for Boys, he also pursued his passion for sports, playing for the neighborhood football and basketball teams alongside his best friend, Frank Cooney. Beau graduated from West Catholic in the spring of 1937. Beau spent his summers at the Jersey Shore town of Cape May, New Jersey. He kept up with his active lifestyle as a member of the Cape May Beach Patrol. After graduation from high school, Beau and Frank moved on to play football for the Elmwood Cadets in the Philadelphia Semi-Professional League. Beau would become the starting center and remain playing alongside his best friend Frank Cooney. Frank Cooney would later become Beau's best man. He was a caring and loving son to his parents, dedicated to them throughout his life, remaining at home while pursuing his college degree. Beau attended LaSalle College in the fall of 1937. While pursuing his degree, he began to develop deep bonds with Eleanor, the woman who would become and remain the love of his life. He graduated from LaSalle College in the spring of 1941 to pursue a career as a chemical engineer and continued his journey of love with his beloved Eleanor. After graduation, when war clouds loomed, Beau did not wait to be drafted. He immediately enlisted in the Army in the summer of 1941. Beau soon departed to basic training in Atlanta, Georgia. In the fall of 1942, Beau was notified that he would be reporting to Officer Candidate School in January of 1943. So, despite 4 months of separation, Beau, who always knew what was most important in his life, changed a spring of 1943 wedding plan in a 3-week period and hurriedly moved it up to December of 1942. Beau returned home to Philadelphia on a 5-day furlough to marry his wife Eleanor on December 20th, 1942. 3 days later, he departed his bride to attend Officer Candidate School, receiving a commission as a second lieutenant. In April 1943, as a new officer, Beau was activated and joined the newly constituted 81st Chemical Mortar Battalion, reporting to maneuvers and training at Camp Polk, Louisiana. Throughout the remainder of 1943, training would be spent at Camp Gordon in Florida and Camp Pinkett in Virginia. In October 1943, the 81st Chemical Battalion began their 11-day journey overseas to England to begin staging for the D-Day invasion.
when troubles come and my heart burdened be, then I am still and wait here in the silence until you come and sit a while with me. You raise me up so I can stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas. I am strong when I am on your shoulders. You raise me up to more than I can be. You raise me up so I can stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas. I am strong when I am on your shoulders. You raise me up to more than I can be.
Just before dawn on June 6th, as the Armada approached the coast of Normandy, lightning-like bright flashes could be seen illuminating the entire horizon. This signaled the initial air and sea bombardment that would blanket Omaha Beach. Approximately 15 miles from the shore, the SS Enrico gave way, and at 0430 hour, Company A began to transfer their men and mortars to the LCVPs. The landing crafts were divided into assault or support boat teams. Each craft would carry 30 to 36 men depending on equipment and weapons. Lieutenant Bo Griesser, along with the Company A commander, Captain Thomas Mondres, would hit the beach first, prior to the soldiers of Company A. The two officers would join an assault boat team to establish a forward command to determine mortar firing positions. Lieutenant Bo Griesser and Captain Mondres climbed down the cargo nets in the murky, false dawn to join Company G of the 2nd Battalion, 16th Infantry Division assault boat team. Lieutenant Griesser took up his designated position in the 6th row from the front ramp of the LCVP. The craft shoved off from their mothership Enrico into a choppy sea for the rendezvous area several hundred yards offshore. Here they circled, endlessly it seemed, causing the boat teams to be wet to the skin and, in many cases, violently seasick. All the mortar battalion companies were positioned in support boat teams in either the 4th or 5th wave of the assault echelon and would land at H plus 50 minutes. At approximately 0630 hour, Bo's landing craft would turn towards the shoreline. At H plus 30 minutes, approximately 0700 hour, Lieutenant Frank Griesser's assault boat team arrived at Easy Red Sector on Omaha Beach. In a matter of minutes, Captain Mondres would lay mortally wounded next to him. Lieutenant Griesser would land to events that would summon his lifelong foundation of faith as he entered this historic battle that would help save the world.
General Orders, War Department, Washington 25, D.C., 6th of September 1944. Battle Honors 3. As approved by the Commanding General, United States Army Forces in the European Theater of Operations. Is confirmed under the provisions of Section 4, Circular Number 333, War Department 1943, in the name of the President of the United States as public evidence of deserved honor and distinction. The citation reads as follows. The 81st Chemical Battalion is cited for outstanding performance of duty in action. In the invasion of France, the mission of the 81st Chemical Battalion was to furnish close mortar support for the two leading assault regiments. In the accomplishment of this mission, the 81st Chemical Battalion landed at H 60 minutes on D-Day, at which time the beach and harbors were under incessant machine gun, artillery, rocket, and mortar fire from the enemy. Underwater and beach obstacles were encountered as the landing craft approached the shore and in the advance from the landing craft to the beach. When two LCVPs in which a part of the battalion was landing sank from enemy shell hits, the men of the 81st Chemical Battalion transferred their mortars, ammunition, and equipment from their own landing craft to an LCM and under constant shelling managed to land the equipment. Though numerous casualties were suffered, men of the 81st Chemical Battalion were not deterred from the accomplishment of their mission, and upon reaching shore with the loss of only one mortar, continued in support of the infantry for 12 days without relief. Such heroism and gallantry in the face of tremendous odds and unusual and hazardous conditions are in the keeping with the tradition of the service and deserving of the highest praise.
I suffered the same anxieties that mothers have suffered since the time eternal when our children are plucked from our protection. I kept myself busy, helping the war effort and praying for the day that my beloved Beau would return. June 6, 1944 was D-Day. Somehow I knew Beau was there and I prayed. He was made an instant captain as so many officers were killed that day. I wanted so much to see him, but I knew that this was impossible. I hoped and prayed that the war would be over soon.
Somewhere in France, June 17th, 1944. My darling wife, I can imagine the anxiety you must have experienced in not hearing from me for a period of 2 weeks. I don't intend to describe or gripe to you about the horrors of war, to the tragic scenes one sees. It is a very horrible experience since I hit the coast of France within the first 30 minutes of the invasion. We encountered lots of trouble, but far be it from the American boys to sit back. Only through their determination and bravery and the will to push forward, together with the help and protection of the Lord, were we able to survive that first day. I'm in the best of health, a little tired, but still going strong. Only through the protection given to me by the Blessed Mother and Sacred Heart have I been able to come this far. Thanks again for the many prayers you have said on my behalf, and please continue to pray for my protection. It is only because of you that I have such a strong desire to come through this in one piece and return home soon. Many boys, some very good friends of mine, will not be coming home. After seeing them killed and wounded, as I have, I am that much more convinced that only through the protection of the Blessed Mother have I come this far.
we were support troops for the infantry division. I was in the chemical warfare service, and we fired mortar guns. And I came in on the third wave only because I was the forward observer for our unit. I was to direct the fire missions and so forth. Our guns never did come off until about the 8th or 9th wave. And it was just like you described it at the beginning. There was an awful lot going on that beach. Probably about 40 yards from the edge of the water up to that seawall that goes along there. And of course, the first thing when you hit that water was, we were pretty lucky because we only come off in water up to about our knees. However, some of the fellas were way out, over their heads, sank, and everything like that. But getting across the beach was their first concern. Just getting out of that terrible, range of fire that they were pouring down on them. So everybody started to pile up behind the seawall because that was a little bit of cover from the machine guns and so forth. And it got so that there wasn't any room left. One point I mentioned, when I came off and ran across that beach, the first person I saw lying wounded was my company commander. And he had a hole in his side and he died from the wound. After Colonel Taylor said, "You off this beach," a couple of the infantry squads got up to the top of the, there was, well, you see them down there, the buffs that you had to go up. They were all mine, and the infantry got up there, and there was 2 machine gun nests up there. They knocked them out, and then their engineers came along and they made a path about that wide up East Buff, and everybody then was able to get off and get on up into Coville-sur-Mer, and this is exactly where we came, in Coville-sur-Mer. We probably didn't get off that beach until around 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon when we came ashore. Now later that evening, we sort of stopped for the night because it got dark and everything. I spent the first night in a drainage ditch right outside of Coville-sur-Mer. That's where we slept that night. Next morning, we had a counterattack. There were some German units in our area, and they started counterattacking with a couple tanks and so forth. And we had no artillery or anything off onto the beaches yet, or in position to take care of repulsing these attacks. But the divisional commander called on the Navy to help us out, and the battleship Texas was offshore, and Texas laid the fire into the counter, broke up the counterattack, so we were very lucky there. I went along with the 1st Division for 2 more days, and then we were deactivated from the 1st Division, and we were assigned to the 2nd Division. I stayed with the 2nd Division, and we fired many smoke screens and high explosive missions and so forth, up into St. Lo, and then everybody got ready to take off at St. Lo, and the big push preceded by that big naval aerial bombardment of about 3,000 planes, and that was some sight to see, all those wave after wave of bombers, and they leveled St. Lo. But going across the field after we jumped off, I heard this artillery shell coming in. I was right beside a hedgerow and dropped on the ground, but it got me in the leg. And I was put out of service, so that was my ticket home. And that's the extent of my experiences. Spent 4 years in the hospital and finally discharged for disability.
No speech can adequately portray their suffering, their sacrifice, their heroism. President Lincoln once reminded us that through their deeds, the dead of battle have spoken more eloquently for themselves than any of the living ever could. that we can only honor them by rededicating ourselves to the cause for which they gave a last full measure of devotion. Today, we do rededicate ourselves to that cause. And at this place of honor, we're humbled with the realization of how much so many gave to the cause of freedom and to their fellow man. Some who survived the Battle of June 6, 1944, are here today. The story to end all stories was D-Day. He made me feel the fear of being on that boat waiting to land. I can smell the ocean and feel the seasickness. I can see the looks on his fellow soldiers' faces, the fear, the anguish, the uncertainty of what lay ahead. And when they landed, I can feel the strength and courage of the men who took those first steps through the tide to what must have surely looked like instant death. I'm going there, Dad. And I'll see the beaches and the barricades and the monuments. I'll see the graves. I'll feel all the things you made me feel through your stories and your eyes. I'll never forget what you went through, Dad, nor will I let anyone else forget. And Dad, I'll always be proud. A D-Day veteran has shown us the meaning of this day far better than any president can. And all the men of honor and courage who fought beside him 4 decades ago, we will always remember. We will always be proud. We will always be prepared, so we may be always free.